Hello, everyone, welcome back to the World Conflict Monitor. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today, we dive into a dramatic and turbulent moment. Soldiers join protesters. The Belarus uprising shocks the world. In this video, we will analyze the unfolding events, explain the implications, and explore what makes this uprising different from many before it. Let us begin by setting the scene. In Belarus, after a contested election, waves of protests surged across cities. The government responded with force, riot police, tear gas, arrests, media blackouts. But then, something extraordinary happened. Reports emerged that some elements of the security forces, and even soldiers, were refusing orders or siding, quietly or openly, with the protesters. This shift transformed a mass protest into a partial mutiny, raising the stakes dramatically. In explaining this, we will treat various aspects of this upheaval in a framework akin to reviewing a complex item or event. Its exterior: public face, symbols, visible power dynamics; interior: the inner workings, motivations, tensions, performance, how the uprising has functioned, its successes and failures; safety features, mechanisms to preserve participants, limits, constraints, unique selling points, what makes this uprising distinct or consequential, a price, costs and risks, and then conclude with what this movement might mean for Belarus, Eastern Europe, and global watchers. In terms of exterior, one sees mass streets flooded with protesters waving the red and white flag, the historical Belarus national flag, a symbol of resistance rather than the state flag. One sees armored vehicles, water cannons, barbed wire barricades, roadblocks, heavy presence of riot police in black or dark gear. One sees defiant slogans against Lukashenko's long-term rule, posters of jailed opposition figures, large gatherings in central squares, and a city in tension. Crucially, one sees soldiers sometimes standing aside, refusing to fire, lowering their weapons, or even walking among civilians. That visible defection is a powerful symbol, a break in the state's monopoly on force. That public face shifts the narrative. This is not simply a street protest, but a fracture in authority itself. Inside the movement, in the interior, lies far greater complexity and fragility. Here, motivations and tensions reside. Among protest leaders and ordinary citizens, there is a mix of outrage at fraud, demand for political reform, economic frustration, discontent with repression, and courage born of desperation. These actors coordinate through clandestine networks, messaging apps, encrypted channels, and symbolic gestures. Some in the security apparatus quietly sympathize, others act out of fear. Some soldiers may object to orders to shoot civilians, some may see the possibility of change. But many remain uncertain, torn by loyalty, by fear of retribution, by uncertainty of the outcome. Inside government ranks, there are tensions between hardline loyalists and more cautious officers. Whispers of divisions spread. Which generals will stand firm? Which will hedge? The interior is a labyrinth of loyalty, coercion, personal risk, and strategic calculation. Some defectors risk court-martial, others may cling to duty. The protest side must manage internal discipline, avoid factionalism, maintain nonviolent discipline for legitimacy, coordinate logistics, food, medical, communication, and balance radical pressure with negotiation readiness. Also critical are behind the scenes efforts, clandestine funding, external communications, diaspora support, media leaks, foreign diplomatic pressure. The interior is the engine room, full of heat, friction, danger, fragile agreements, and shifting alliances. If that interior coherence collapses, if leaders fracture, security defectors lose nerve, or repression overwhelms coordination, the entire uprising could be suppressed. Maintaining interior unity and adaptive strategy is absolutely essential. Looking at performance, we measure how well the uprising is functioning in practice. In many cities, protests have drawn tens of thousands, maintained longevity, and withstood crackdowns. In some cases, Protesters block key intersections, disrupt public transport, surround security posts, and conduct civil disobedience. The partial defections among soldiers and police have sometimes spared lives. Police reluctance to engage, low-level refusals, or inaction have shifted the balance. The movement has succeeded in keeping attention high, forcing negotiations, international condemnation of government repression, and political visibility for opposition leaders. On the downside, performance is uneven. In places outside major cities, the government retains dominance. There have been violent clashes, arrests, injuries, and suppression in many areas. The movement's ability to sustain supply lines, protect its participants, maintain communications under internet blackouts, and coordinate across regions is severely tested. In sum, impressive endurance so far, but the performance is far from assured. Turning to safety features in a conflict or uprising context, this means how the movement and its participants attempt to mitigate losses, preserve lives, manage risks, and maintain legitimacy. Protest organizers often emphasize nonviolent discipline, chants, peaceful marches, symbolic resistance rather than armed confrontation that builds moral high ground and reduces justification for lethal force. They set up medical stations, legal aid, rapid response teams to help arrested protesters, and communication networks to warn of police movements. Some protesters use helmets, goggles, shields, protective gear, and first aid kits. They avoid high-risk zones at night, coordinate escape routes, crowd control, and safe assembly points. They disseminate alerts when tear gas or arrests are imminent. They try to document abuses video, live stream to deter brutal retaliation, and to gather evidence. They encourage solidarity and observe accountability, e.g., discouraging provocateurs, internal discipline to prevent escalation into violence that would hurt civilians. However, safety is never guaranteed. Government forces may unleash violence, arrests can be arbitrary, leaders can be kidnapped, communication can be blocked, foreign support can destabilize, and momentum can backfire. But these safety features increase the margin of survival and protect the movement's legitimacy. What are the unique selling points, the key features that make this uprising stand out in history, and why it matters globally? First, the involvement or sympathy of security forces is rare and transformative. It shifts the protest from a citizens versus state scenario to a state fracturing from within. Second, the focus on nonviolent resistance combined with symbolic defiance gives moral appeal and global media traction. Third, the long dominance of Lukashenko's regime, decades in power, makes this a rare test of entrenched authoritarian rule in Eastern Europe. Fourth, the role of modern communication, encrypted messaging, social media, live video, messaging across borders even under blackout, allows rapid coordination and international witness. Fifth, the regional implications. Belarus sits adjacent to Russia, the EU, and strategic geopolitical zones. Success or suppression here influences neighboring regimes and great power calculations. Sixth, this is not simply a domestic protest, but a potential turning point, shifting legitimacy of force, signaling to other post-Soviet and authoritarian regimes that resistance can reach into the security apparatus. Seventh, the scale and persistence. Weeks or months of mass mobilization under repression is a feat in itself. These elements make this a unique case study in modern uprisings, civil resistance, regime challenge, and the fragility of coercive states. Price is high. The costs and risks of this uprising are enormous. Protesters risk injury, imprisonment, torture, forced exile, disappearance, or death. Families may suffer reprisals. Security defectors risk court, martial, execution, or exile. Government losses include legitimacy, economic damage, international sanctions, instability. The country may face paralysis of institutions, capital flight, infrastructure damage, supply disruptions, civil breakdown. The protest movement also risks fragmentation, infiltration, co-option, counterattacks, and fatigue. If government suppresses dissent with overwhelming force, the human toll may be catastrophic. Additionally, foreign actors may intervene, tipping balance violently. For many individuals, the cost is personal, risking their lives for freedom and dignity with no guarantee of success. In conclusion, this uprising in Belarus, intensified by the involvement or hesitant defection of soldiers and security personnel, is more than a protest, it is a crack in the foundations of power. Its success is far from certain, yet its signal is strong. When legitimacy rests on fear, any act of defiance by those meant to enforce the regime can unravel control. The interior tensions, the performance under stress, the safety mechanisms, the distinct symbolic power, and the massive cost all make this a landmark struggle. If the movement sustains its coherence, broadens defection, garners international support, and avoids descent into violent chaos, it may achieve meaningful change, free elections, political plurality, regime transition. If not, it may be violently suppressed, leaving scars and lessons. For the world, it offers a test. Can modern protest and symbolic defection reshape authoritarian rule, especially in a region under strong security traditions? It reminds us that the state's greatest vulnerability is its own instruments of violence when they hesitate to act. Thank you for watching, and again please subscribe and like will keep you updated as this story evolves.